Mandy got into a car accident and lost her memory. Lying in the hospital bed, she just stared at me blankly. I'm sorry, I don't remember you. It broke my heart, but I took care of Mandy anyway, trying to help her get her memory back. Then I saw her downstairs, making out with her ex-boyfriend. I heard her say scornfully, "I don't love him." I told him I had amnesia, and he actually believed it. When I confronted her, Mandy was completely shameless. "I really don't remember you." I just smiled and snatched the 2 movie tickets I'd bought from her hand. "That's okay, because my girlfriend isn't you." Mandy got into a car accident. Her mom called and asked me to come to the hospital. I canceled a client meeting and rushed over in a cab. The second I walked in, I saw Mandy in a hospital gown, sitting there in a daze. The sunlight hit the side of her face. She looked just like the girl I'd always loved. Hearing us, she looked over, her eyes scanning around before they landed on me. I instinctively ran over to check on her. Mandy's gaze was vacant. She looked at me with a mix of surprise and confusion. "Who are you?" My heart sank. From the look on her face, she wasn't faking it. Her mom explained from the side. "The doctor said she might have amnesia." I was sad for a moment, but I quickly pulled myself together. "It's okay. I'll help you get your memory back." I went to get her some water. When I came back, there was someone else next to Mandy. The guy was wearing a doctor's white coat, but he had 2 buttons undone and a roguish vibe. Definitely not a doctor at this hospital. He leaned in close to Mandy, right beside her. From where I was standing, it looked like they were about to kiss. Mandy didn't pull away. "Mandy, do you remember me?" The second I heard the guy's voice, I froze. It was Mandy's ex-boyfriend, Ken. I wasn't sure why he was here, but his presence made my skin crawl. I was about to step inside. Suddenly, Mandy let out a soft laugh. She said, "Of course I remember you, silly." So Mandy really had lost her memory. She didn't remember who I was, but she remembered her ex-boyfriend, Ken. He had the same slightly curly, chestnut brown hair as he did in college, looking all sunny and handsome. Everyone in college knew Mandy was crazy about Ken. Right now, Mandy was staring at him, her eyes full of affection. Ken sat on the edge of her bed, pressed right up against her. He put his hand on her shoulder. He chuckled. "Then do you remember the first time I kissed you? Just like this?" Mandy nodded. Then she instinctively leaned in closer. A vein throbbed in my forehead. I couldn't take it anymore and walked in. "Mandy." The moment I spoke, Ken and Mandy quickly pulled apart. Mandy looked up at me. The smile vanished from her face. She looked at me, confused. "What are you doing here? Who are you?" "I'm Larry, your boyfriend," I said calmly, then glanced at Ken. A flicker of jealousy and hostility crossed his eyes before he quickly composed himself. His smile was as bright as ever. "Larry, I heard about Mandy's accident. I figured she hadn't had lunch, so I made her something myself. My cooking isn't as good as yours, big bro, so I hope Mandy doesn't mind." Ken held up an insulated container and raised his eyebrows with a smirk. I was about to tell him it wasn't necessary, but Mandy's voice cut in. "I don't mind." Ken beamed. He immediately sat down next to Mandy again. They were so close their clothes were touching. Mandy didn't move away. Her eyes followed his every move. Ken opened the container and started to feed Mandy himself. "Open up, Saya." Mandy giggled softly. She obediently opened her mouth and ate. Ken shot me a provocative smile. "Larry, could you be a dear and get Mandy another glass of water?" The way Ken was acting, you'd think he was Mandy's boyfriend. I didn't move. The room was silent. Mandy's eyes shifted over to me. When she saw I wasn't moving, she frowned slightly. I forced a smile and took the container from his hand. "Thanks for bringing my girlfriend lunch, but I can handle feeding her." I stood in front of him, waiting for him to move. Ken paused for a second, then a smirk played on his lips. He explained in a thoughtful tone. "I was just so worried about Mandy that I got carried away. I didn't mean anything by it. Don't get the wrong idea, Larry." I smiled back at him. "I won't. She's my girlfriend. I trust her." Before Ken left, he shook his head and gave me a meaningful smile. I sat down next to Mandy and handed her the container and chopsticks. She didn't take them. She waited until Ken's figure had completely disappeared down the hospital corridor. Only then did Mandy slowly look away. The smile left her lips, replaced by her usual indifferent expression. I'm not hungry anymore. I didn't push it. I turned around and dumped all the food from the container into the trash. Mandy stared at me in shock. You? I looked at her. Didn't you say you weren't hungry? I scraped the container clean with the chopsticks. I'm sure Ken's takeout wasn't very good anyway. I'll go downstairs and get you something more nutritious. Mandy averted her gaze, looking uncomfortable. Her expression turned cold. Don't bother. Okay, then I won't. If she said not to, she must not be hungry. I started telling Mandy about our memories together. How she ran through a torrential downpour to buy me my favorite cake from that special bakery just to get my attention. How she stayed up all night, glued to her phone, to snag tickets to my favorite concert. How she said we'd get married 2 years after graduation. As Mandy listened, she looked at me suspiciously. That sounds like something I wouldn't do. I smiled at her. She was right. Those weren't things she did. They were all things I did. But I just wanted to see if it would jog her memory. The doctor said she could be discharged soon. While we were waiting for the paperwork, I was busy replying to client messages. Mandy glanced at me several times. She seemed like she wanted to say something but was holding back. I put down my phone and looked at her. I'm your boyfriend. You can say whatever's on your mind. Mandy looked up at me. What if I never get my memory of you back? What would you do? I stared at her for a long moment. Then I'll just have to help you remember me. After she was discharged, Mandy's leg was still weak, so there was a lot she couldn't do. I became the most attentive boyfriend you could imagine. I'd buy her favorite bagels for breakfast. I'd come over after work to take care of her. I even washed her clothes by hand. Mandy, you're out of laundry detergent. No response. I turned and looked into the living room. Mandy was sitting on the couch, looking at her phone. She hadn't heard me. She was totally focused on the screen, a little smile playing on her lips every now and then. I walked closer and saw she was chatting with someone. The screen was full of text. Before I could see who it was, Mandy heard my footsteps and quickly hid her phone. She looked at me, alarmed. You scared me. Seeing her acting so secretive and guilty made me uneasy. I tried to make a joke out of it. What are you hiding? Anyone would think you were seeing someone else. Mandy's expression became a little unnatural. Her phone was face down on the couch. She looked up at me, her expression still vacant and distant. I'm sorry, I still can't remember you. Then she looked at the clothes in my hands, which were still soapy. Taking care of me like this, don't you feel put upon? I blinked. Something about that sentence felt off. But I smiled and said, not at all. You're my girlfriend, after all. For the next several days, my life became a simple routine. Take care of Mandy, have dinner with her, and then go home. One day, I had to work late for an urgent matter. A difficult client I just couldn't put off. I had to text Mandy. I have to work late tonight. Can't make it to your place. Mandy quickly replied with a simple okay. I had just finished dinner and was about to head back to the office when I got a message from the client. Something came up and they had to cancel. I figured Mandy and her mom probably hadn't eaten yet, so I bought some takeout to bring over. As I was about to go upstairs, my eyes caught a familiar couple. There was nothing wrong with Mandy's leg. She was standing perfectly steady. Not only that, she was holding a teary-eyed Ken in her arms, comforting him softly. Baby, you know you're the only one I love. I'd walk through fire for you if you asked. No one else has that power over me. Ken, in a very dramatic display, lightly pounded his fist on her chest. Then why haven't you broken up with Larry yet? Ken's voice cracked as he spoke. Mandy's brow furrowed with sympathy. He's such a doormat, Mandy said. He acts like a butler, spending money and doing all the work. That new perfume you were using the other day? He's the one who bought it for me. And look, he just gave me 2 tickets for the latest movie. I was planning on taking you. Ken glanced at the movie tickets. The tears stopped flowing. He petulantly wrapped his arms around Mandy's neck and gave her a hard kiss. I don't care. Even if you break up, you're still mine. You're not allowed to fall in love with him." Mandy chuckled and rubbed her forehead against his. Her tone was laced with sarcasm. "That idiot? I told him I had amnesia and he believed it. How could I ever fall in love with him?" Ken laughed at that, but I just stood there, frozen, my fists clenched. Lost in the moment, they started kissing passionately. I couldn't watch anymore. I walked right up to them, my eyes wide, and just stared. "Having a good time, you two? Want me to take a picture for you?" Ken reacted first, letting out a shriek when he saw me. Then Mandy turned and saw me too. Her expression shifted rapidly before settling into a furious scowl. "Larry, aren't you supposed to be working late? What are you doing here?" Then a thought seemed to strike Mandy, and her face changed again. "Larry, you knew all along, didn't you? You were following me?" Her morals were questionable, but her imagination was pretty good. I couldn't help but laugh. "Mandy, you remember everything now, don't you?" Mandy sneered. She pointed at Ken, her voice full of self-righteousness. "Sorry, but I still don't remember you, so I can't love you. But my gut tells me that he's the boy I'm supposed to be with." I nodded in amazement. I was silent for a moment. Then I burst out laughing. "Well, congratulations then." Without a second thought, I snatched the 2 movie tickets I'd bought from Mandy's hand. "That's okay. I think my memory is coming back, too. I just remembered, my girlfriend isn't you." I turned to leave. Ken looked annoyed. "Why does he get to take our movie tickets?" Mandy whispered, "He's the one who bought them." Ken wasn't happy. He stomped his foot in frustration. "I don't care. Get them back for me." And Mandy actually listened to him. She quickly ran to block my path. And man, her legs were strong. It made me wonder if the amnesia, the leg injury, and maybe even the car accident were all an act. "Larry, the movie tickets," I scoffed. She really had the nerve to ask for them back. I looked down at the dinner in my hands, including the hot soup. I turned and threw it all in her face. "Mandy, since you have no shame, let me help you wash your face." Ken rushed over, pointing and yelling at me. "You're so barbaric." Losing my patience, I picked up the other container of soup and dumped it on his face too. "Don't fight over it, you scumbag. There's plenty for you too." If I had known what kind of person Mandy was, what she was capable of, I would have fed this dinner to a dog before I ever gave it to her. As they both shrieked and cursed, I dusted off my hands and coolly walked away. The next time I ran into Mandy and Ken was about 2 weeks later. I was waiting for a client outside a boba shop. Ken was whining, trying to get Mandy to buy him a drink. They seemed to have just had a fight, and Mandy didn't look too happy either. Then she turned her head and saw me. Ken immediately hid behind Mandy, grabbing the corner of her shirt. "Mandy, you misunderstood earlier. I just thought that woman was pretty. It doesn't mean I don't love you. Besides, I asked for her number and she turned me down, right? I know you love me and you care about me, so please don't be mad. Okay?" As Ken spoke, he secretly glanced over at me. Mandy followed his gaze. After a brief pause, a smile spread across her face. She handed the boba in her hands to Ken, then sauntered over to me with a smirk. Having regrets? She had such an arrogant look on her face. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. When I didn't say anything, Mandy sneered at me. "See, Ken? This is the doormat I was telling you about. Even after he broke up with me, he's still following me, chasing me all the way here. If you start messing around with other women, I might just dump you and go back to my backup plan here." I felt a wave of nausea. I gagged, and the sound was loud enough to interrupt Mandy's self-important speech. Mandy's eyes flickered toward me. What's wrong with you?" she asked, feigning concern. I straightened up and smiled. "Sorry about that. I just heard some pathetic whining and it made me feel sick." Mandy's face went pale, then red. "Larry, you're going to regret this." I laughed coldly. Of course I wouldn't regret it. Mandy tried to pull Ken away, but he stopped her. "Wait a second." A smirk appeared on Ken's face. "We're not done with him for that soup incident." With that, he twisted the cap off his boba and walked toward me. I saw what he was planning and tried to dodge, but I wasn't fast enough. He threw the boba at me, soaking my shirt. A hot, Wet sensation spread across my back. Damn it! This was the shirt I wore for client meetings. Once a sugary drink like that gets on it, the stain is impossible to get out. The shirt was basically ruined. Ken covered his mouth, trying to hide a giggle. Look, Mandy. Now it's his turn to be humiliated in public. He had barely finished his sentence. A clean handkerchief was offered to me, and at the same time, a slender hand gently touched my arm, pulling me behind her. It was Ava Chun, the client I was waiting for. She stood in front of me, her expression cool as she looked up. Ken's laugh died in his throat. He stared at Ava, stunned. You? Mandy immediately became wary. She frowned at Ken. Is that the woman whose number you asked for? She doesn't look like much. Mandy's tone was sour and spiteful. She shot me a look and added another comment. And now she's with Larry. They're probably up to something shady. Ava frowned and shot her a cold look. I suggest you watch your mouth. Then she turned to Ken. When you damage someone's property, you have to pay for it. I gave him this shirt and it was very expensive. So, are we settling this privately? Or should we get the authorities involved? Ken looked back and forth between me and her, his expression unreadable. It took him a moment to process the fact that we knew each other. He bit his lip, trying to look innocent. What do you mean, get the authorities involved? Call the police. Ava was direct. Ken tried to play the victim to get out of paying. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I didn't know his shirt was that expensive. Besides, I didn't start it. Last time. This jerk threw hot soup all over me. Ava looked at me. I nodded with a smile. So what if I did? Ava lightly brushed some imaginary dust off her sleeve, her voice casual. I'm sure he had a good reason for whatever he did. You are paying for this shirt. Ava's words made me want to cheer. She really didn't fall for that whole innocent act. When Ken saw that nothing he said would change Ava's mind, he actually dropped the attitude and turned to me. Come on, Larry. We were classmates. How was I supposed to know your shirt was so expensive? I just lost my temper for a second. Besides, you threw soup on me last time, so let's just call it even. Okay? I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Call it even? You stole my girlfriend and love to cheat. Why would I ever want to be even with you? And another thing, when you damage someone's property, you pay for it. That's just how it is. Calling someone ma'am or bro and acting pitiful isn't going to get you out of it. I gave Mandy a half smile. Not everyone falls for your little games. Ken's face turned ashen. Just before we were about to call the police, Ken reluctantly paid up. Ken didn't have that much money. He looked at Mandy. Mandy, can you help me pay for it? I don't have enough. Mandy looked uncomfortable. If you don't have it, I don't have it either. I watched them with a faint smile. Of course, Mandy didn't have that much money. Since graduation, she'd been coasting on her good looks and a devoted boyfriend like me. She probably thought she could live just fine without working. I had bought most of the things in her apartment. Now that we were broken up and I'd cut off the supply, it made sense that she was short on cash. Mandy and Ken looked at each other. They whispered back and forth for a long time but couldn't come up with a solution. Ava looked down at me with a smile. You kept turning me down for this woman? I laughed at myself. I was blind back then. My apologies. I glanced at my watch. It was about time. Have you two figured it out yet? How are you going to pay? Ken hid behind Mandy. She'll pay for it. Mandy reluctantly transferred the money from her personal savings. She looked miserable. Ken, that was the money I was saving up for our future. It's all gone now. Ken was impatient. We can just save more. I can't believe you're so broke, being so cheap about it. Ava took my arm and led me away. But what Mandy had just said echoed in my mind. We were together for 2 years. She never once talked about marrying me. But she had been saving up for a future with Ken all along. I couldn't help but let out a small, bitter laugh at my own blindness over the past 2 years. It was just beyond words. Ava had been pursuing me for a long time. She started out as a client, but she claimed it was love at first sight. She kept asking me out, but I always said no. After she helped me out at the boba shop, she became even more determined. Larry, I have complete faith in your professional abilities, but I seriously question your taste in people. So I guess there was a reason you kept turning me down for so long. Every time we ate out, Ava would thoughtfully hand me the menu. Then she'd carefully get napkins ready for me. Her consideration and attention to detail were things I'd never experienced before. It warmed my heart and I gave in. I suggested we could try dating. What's on your mind? I was standing on the balcony, staring at my phone. Ava came up from behind and hugged me. It's the class reunion this weekend, and I don't want to go. But Jessica, my old department senior, is insisting I have to be there. Ava guessed that I didn't want to run into Mandy and Ken. We had all known each other since college. Ava gently ruffled my hair. Go ahead. You have nothing to be afraid of. I'll come pick you up when it's over. Something sparkled in Ava's eyes. I was mesmerized. The next second, a smile touched Ava's lips as she leaned in and gently kissed me. The class reunion was in a private room at a hotel. When I arrived, the room was already full. Ken was wearing a white casual suit, sitting in the back talking with some classmates. You guys have no idea. Larry has latched onto a sugar mama. You know, the CEO of Stellar Corporation, I walked in and the room went silent. Only the end of Ken's sentence hung in the air. Jessica came over to greet me. Larry, you're here. Hey, Jessica, I said with a polite smile as she led me to a seat. Of course, I ended up right next to Ken. Ken was dripping with sarcasm. Well, if it isn't our famous alumnus, Larry. Everyone says he's so successful, but who knows if he earned it himself or if he slept his way to the top. He rolled his eyes. A few people around us covered their mouths to stifle a laugh. I sat there quietly, not saying a word. A guy who was friends with Ken chimed in with a snide tone. Man, you really can't judge a book by its cover. Mandy was the queen bee of our school back then, and she only had eyes for Ken, her one true love. They were just going through a rough patch, had one little fight. And someone took advantage of the situation and stole Ken's girlfriend. There were gasps from around the room. A sophomore whispered to his friend, "Can he even say that?" I instinctively glanced at Mandy, who was sitting in a corner. She lit a cigarette and said nothing, just quietly watching us. I frowned. I've always hated the smell of smoke. During our 2 years together, I had forced Mandy to quit. She would never smoke in front of me, but now, she had reverted to the person she was when she was with Ken. I looked down and chuckled softly. Mandy's silence was a form of agreement. In front of all our old classmates, she was letting Ken slander me like this. She was the one who cheated. Ken was the shameless one. But here they were, in front of everyone, twisting the truth. The whispers around me were getting louder. I turned to Jessica and asked loudly, "Jessica, you're a law student. What's the penalty for slander and defamation?" Jessica's eyes darted between me and Ken. She gave a nervous laugh and sat down next to me to explain. "Larry, don't worry about it. We all know you're not like that. Besides, I'm sure Ken didn't mean any harm." I just looked at her. She seemed like a complete stranger. Even though we were in the same department, we hadn't been that close, and there had always been rumors that Jessica had a crush on Ken too. Maybe guys who looked like Ken were just popular. But that didn't mean I had to put up with being slandered for no reason. I chuckled. "Then do you know what kind of person Ken is, Jessica?" My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for everyone in the room to hear. I stood up. I never stole anyone's girlfriend. After Mandy and Ken broke up, she was the one who pursued me. We were together for 2 years, and Ken shamelessly became the other man. He spent my money, used the things I bought, and even the cologne he wore was a gift I gave to my ex-girlfriend, Mandy. And as for latching onto a sugar mama, that's just Ken being bitter because he tried and failed to hit on my girlfriend. My classmates remembered me as a quiet person. After that speech, they all stared at me in shock. The way they looked at Ken changed, too. Ken also stood up. "What are you talking about? Everyone here has eyes. They can all see whether or not you stole my girlfriend." Ken's eyes swept over me, and he sneered. "Besides, how could a guy like you get a VP position at a major company if you weren't sleeping with a woman?" I just laughed in disbelief. I shook my head. "Someone like you couldn't, that's for sure. But I can. It seems like this reunion isn't really worth my time. If you're going to let any stray dog in, Then I'll see myself out. I turned to leave. Jessica tried to stop me. Larry, don't go. I pushed the door open and left. Only when I got outside did I realize it had started to rain. I didn't have an umbrella, so I called Ava. Soon, I heard voices behind me. Ken and a few other classmates had followed me out. If you don't believe what I said, then just believe your own eyes. He doesn't have an umbrella. Someone will definitely come pick him up. Just you watch. I suddenly regretted coming here today. Just then, Mandy pushed past them and walked toward me with an umbrella. Here. I looked at Mandy in surprise, as if she were a complete stranger. She held the umbrella out to me. When Ken saw this, he looked like he was about to explode. Mandy, what are you doing? That's my umbrella. Mandy frowned. The way she looked at Ken was no longer affectionate. There was even a hint of disgust and annoyance. What do you mean, your umbrella? I bought it for you. Ken lunged forward to grab it. Mandy dodged, and Ken lost his balance, nearly falling over. It's still my umbrella. Ken suddenly seemed to break down, his eyes turning red. Mandy, be honest. Have you actually fallen in love with Larry? Mandy was silent. Then she looked Ken straight in the eye. Yes. I regret getting back together with you. Ken stood there, stunned. Mandy ignored him. She turned to me and offered the umbrella again. Larry, I'm sorry. I was so stupid before. I was blinded by Ken's games and didn't see how good you were to me. Can you give me another chance? Hope flickered in Mandy's eyes. She looked at me cautiously, but I just frowned. The disgusting smell of smoke, carried by the night wind, wafted over from Mandy. I gently covered my nose and mouth and shook my head with a smile. Sorry, I already have a girlfriend. After all, playing games like that just isn't my style. A black car pulled up to the hotel entrance. It honked twice softly. I turned and saw Ava roll down the window and wave at me. Then she got out of the car with an umbrella. Thank you all for seeing my boyfriend off. Ava was polite and gracious, thanking the group of classmates who had come out to watch the show. Let's go. Ava took my hand, and we were about to leave. Suddenly, someone called out from behind us. Wow, is that a Rolls-Royce? I've never seen someone drive a car like that in real life. Larry, is your girlfriend that rich? The classmate's exclamation brought Ken back to life. He squinted at me with a cold smile, his eyes filled with jealousy and venom. I told you, how could he get such a rich girlfriend if he wasn't a sugar baby? We're all old classmates, we know each other's backgrounds. We all know exactly what you're made of, Larry. Ken's malicious taunts made everyone present frown. Mandy's face was cold. Shut up. Ava looked at Ken for a long moment. Then she spoke. If I remember correctly, you're the boy who ruined my boyfriend's shirt last time, right? The one whose years of savings couldn't even cover the cost of one of his shirts. A person with your kind of character and vision will naturally find a woman who is your equal. Ken's face went white with rage. What did you say? I watched Ava, amused. I never would have thought someone so elegant could be so savage with her words. Ava, like a seasoned litigator, scanned the group of my old classmates. But I owe a lot of my success today to Larry. If he hadn't helped me with strategy, I wouldn't be able to drive a Rolls-Royce. With that, Ava smiled and led me away. I glanced back one last time. Ken's face was twisted with anger. Mandy stood frozen, her expression dark. I felt fantastic. The more time we spent together, the more I realized how compatible Ava and I were. We had similar interests and endless things to talk about. Especially in our professional lives, we were friends, partners, and the perfect client-vendor pair who were always on the same page. Every time Ava gave me a hard time at work, she would inevitably make it up to me by cooking something delicious at home. A few times, Ava told me my PowerPoint presentations were subpar and needed improvement. When we got home, I'd make her do all the chores as punishment. After she was done, she'd open her laptop and help me fix the slides. I'd snack on sunflower seeds and enjoy the show. As for Mandy and Ken, they seemed to fade further and further from my life. The memories of all their drama started to dissolve. Until one day, I heard Ken had gotten into some trouble, and Mandy was trying to find me to ask for help. I didn't answer her calls and blocked all her contact information. Mandy cornered me outside my office building. She looked distressed and was even about to kneel, drawing the attention of my coworkers. Worried she would cause a scene, I agreed to meet her at the coffee shop downstairs. Mandy looked much more haggard, and a lot thinner. She started talking anxiously. "Larry, I know I did you wrong, but I really need your help right now." I took a sip of my coffee, listening with a neutral expression. It was certainly a first for me, an ex-girlfriend with whom things ended so badly having the gall to ask me for a favor for her other ex-boyfriend. Ken thinks I'm gonna leave him, so he took a bunch of sleeping pills. I looked at her blankly. And? What does that have to do with me? This was ridiculous. Mandy hesitated for a moment before finally spitting it out. They were able to save him, but now he's refusing to eat and making a big scene, saying he has to see Ava. "Do you think you could help?" I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I held up my hand in front of Mandy's face, showing her the ring on my finger. "Mandy, do you really think I'm going to help with that? Ava just proposed to me. We're getting married soon. Do you think I'm going to let a man who has been after my fiancé meet with her?" Mandy's eyes were glued to the ring on my finger. How is that possible? You said yes?" I shrugged. "Why would it be impossible? Didn't you say you would love me forever?" Mandy's eyes welled up with tears. I was completely baffled. I had no idea what she was trying to do. She was the one who said she loved Ken, and now she was here, acting all heartbroken and devoted to me. I sneered. "Mandy, not everyone is going to wait around for you. What you don't cherish, someone else will. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you really love Ken, then treat him well, keep him in line, and stop him from constantly flirting with everyone. Otherwise, you'll both live to regret it." With that, I turned and left. Mandy called my name. I didn't slow down. I didn't even pause for a second. Ava and I got married. We had a huge wedding. All our friends and family came to celebrate with us. Ava said the bigger the wedding, the better. I invited a lot of old friends and classmates, but I deliberately didn't invite Mandy and Ken. But I never expected them to have the audacity to show up uninvited. They even tried to cause a scene at my wedding. Ken tried to drug one of the drinks. Luckily, a relative saw him and caught him in the act. Security threw them out. It was a pathetic sight. That was the last time I ever saw them. Later, Ava's business grew, and we opened a branch office. I left my job to help her manage it, and we moved to a new city. The next time I heard about Mandy and Ken, it was from an old classmate. Apparently, Mandy kept putting off any talk of marrying Ken. Ken found some rich older woman somewhere and was planning to run off with her. But Mandy found out. They broke up. The rich older woman was only interested in his looks from the start, and she dumped him when she got bored. I heard things ended pretty badly for him. I just listened to it like it was some funny story. After all, their drama had nothing to do with me from the very beginning.